Hey everyone, welcome back. So I'm going to talk about this new moon that is set to arrive on April 1st, and it is an Aries moon. So we go through a cycle throughout the year where we actually begin with Aries and end with Pisces. So we're just in the beginning of a new cycle because of the spring equinox that just happened. So now, if you pay attention, you will realize that each consecutive new moon emerging will fall in the pattern of the zodiac. So from this moon forward, it starts with Aries, goes to Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, and so on and so forth. So this is a fresh beginning, and it is really most likely rejuvenating. And it is really connected to the healing arts, because Chiron is pretty close to this new moon. And so Chiron is a little asteroid that is connected to the wounds, our wounds. So I've really noticed lately that people are really gravitating towards the past, and many topics are being brought up in relation to the past. And this is a new moon that is a fresh beginning. So it kind of says, okay, now I've done that. I've done my review. I've delved into some of that. And now where do I want to go from here? But we're still not quite through this past energy. So we've had a lot of this going on with the indigenous people now in Rome, trying to resolve old wounds that have surfaced now with the discovery of certain children's schools, or the schools run by the church. And we're dealing with a lot of stuff that is coming out, and what do we need to do with it? Of course, we need to reconcile it, but we wonder, for just us that maybe don't have cultural wounds, that where do we as just an individual need to deal with some of these past events that are still embedded within us, that are still hurting us in some way. And what happens with those old wounds, which is associated with Chiron, is they're covered over, they're scarred over, but they need to heal underneath that scar. So we're going to delve into a little bit more of that. So this is a new moon. The moons are about to flip. So we have actually 3 moons in April. And that full moon is gravitating towards the upper part of the month. And the new moon is soon going to be at the end of the month instead of the beginning. So that's what happens with that. We have 2 new moons this month, and we have a full moon in the middle. So that blue moon that's happening at the end. So this moon happens at 11 degrees of Aries, 30 minutes. It arrives on April 1st in Central Standard Time, Mountain Standard Time, at just after midnight. So that moon on the Pacific coast would land on March 31st instead of April 1st. So the farther you go east, the more it's going to land up into that April 1st section. Now, Aries is a very ambitious, a very spontaneous energy that likes to be extremely pioneering, It is really motivated. It's really anxious to start a lot of new activities. And this is the moon that kind of spurs us into spring. Oh, we got to pick up our seeds for the garden. We're starting to clean out some stuff. We're starting to get the yard ready. And so there's kind of an excitement that builds with this Aries moon. And so this moon is straddled right between Mercury and Chiron. And so we talked a little bit already about the Chiron energy. Uh, and and so I just want to talk about Mercury. So Mercury hasn't triggered the moon yet, and it most likely will trigger it here in the next couple days following the moon, following this moon. And I think we got a lot of ideas going on here. There's a lot of action orientated. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And so it's a now or never kind of energy that goes, I have to get it done. Like I have to get it done now, or I'm never going to do it. And so there's lots of things put into the works that are sort of personal and self motivated. I need to go to the dentist. I need to look after my health. I need to do this because that's the Aries energy. So appointments, plans, talks are all emerging, and this is full of courage. So if you have been leaving something and neglecting something for quite a while, this moon is probably really going to motivate you to get those uh, chores done or get that agenda finished off. So it takes a bit of courage here. Aries is full of courage and heroism. And so we could be hearing a lot about that in the media because Mercury is pretty close. And a new conversation is emerging in the next couple of days following this moon. And a new perspective, a new way of looking at things and expressing ourselves. So there's some decisions that are made here, and those decisions could be a result of your own personal wounds and how you want to engage in the world from this moment forward. And so it's interesting because Aries can be a little bit argumentative, and it can be a little bit like, I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to do this. So it's kind of, it can be passive aggressive kind of energy because Mercury is always looking to accommodate. With both its signs of Gemini and Virgo, it wants to accommodate and come to some agreement. But with Aries, it can throw up its hands and say, not now. I'm not doing that right now. And so you could kind of find this push pull. The good news about the moon is if you reconcile your past wounds, you actually can emerge into this fresh conversation. You can, so it's almost like a simultaneous thing. In terms of countries like Russia and the Ukraine, obviously there's a deep wound there between those two countries. And I'm not sure exactly what those issues are about. But obviously there's a rift that falls there, a fault line. And so it's interesting if the two countries can come together and heal some of that rift, certainly fresh talks, new perspectives, and perhaps an agreement or tentative agreement can come forward. And it does look kind of promising with this new moon in that region. The world is busy right now, very busy. Um, and we are action orientated, as we kind of seen at the Oscars. So a verbal exchange was made. It was taken personally. It obviously triggered something, and action was taken, and aggressive action was taken by Will Smith. So we have kind of these spontaneous reactions happening with this moon as well. So you do have to be cautious and aware that you or somebody else could act really aggressively. And so you just have to be aware of what triggers you, I guess, and aware of those underlying old patterns that are recycling themselves. So it's interesting because this moon is ruled by Mars, and Mars, of course, is in the liberating sign of Aquarius: humanitarian issues, freedom issues, equality issues, and space. Like, we need a little bit of space to breathe. So there's a lot of motivation here, and there's a lot of action and perhaps new talks about environmental issues, the implementation of certain environmental mandates, or a push forward, especially with the energy crisis that is emerging in many countries as they try to cut off those streams of oil and gas into their country because of the war. And so we have to be aware that we're shifting here into this new era, into the air element. And this is going to continue to break down the earth element as we move along into 2024 and beyond. So Mars here is approaching Saturn. And when Mars and Saturn come together, probably around the 4th or 5th of April, what we're going to find here is that there's a stopping energy that happens, that it says, wait a minute, we have to do a bit of review here. We have to be consciously aware of what we're doing, and is it responsible action that we're taking? Does it make sense? Is it going to be the thing that we need in our lives farther down the road and into the future? Or are we making hasty decisions? Because this new moon is hasty decisions. And yet Mars and Saturn are going, slow down, take your time, look at everything from the past and your future actions going into the future, and then make your decision, because you don't know exactly what your actions and the repercussions of your actions are. So Saturn is karmic, a karmic energy and karma. So you want to make sure that your actions and everything you do, you think about before you do them, because there's going to be long-term consequences with Mars so close to Saturn like this. This is a long-term inhibition or inability to move forward with your own agenda and your vision for the future. So that's why it's vitally important to make sure that you don't just vomit on somebody, you don't just react, that you have to take a moment in your mind to say, is this the right action? Is this what I need to do? So in this moon, I know I've heard that some of the astrologers are really focused on Chiron, but I also always generally go to the ruler And what is this ruler doing, this Mars action? So we could see kind of a halting or pulling back in the war in Ukraine, perhaps briefly for talks and for healing, to heal the rifts, and a stoppage to some degree. Yeah. However, Mars and Saturn together can create a grinding down energy that is overly excessive in many ways, uh, in its pressure to do something. So the world around, the world in at large, is certainly under a great deal of pressure to act due to humanitarian issues. And we get that real grinding down, that real pressure upon us to do something now. And yet we've got to hold back for various reasons. We just can't react. In your own life, if you're PO'd at the boss and you decide to tell the boss off, this isn't not necessarily the best moon, because you could find yourself looking for another job, and maybe that's exactly what you want. And so we do need to be cautious of our own personal agenda. And even though this is Aries, across, looking out from ourselves are other people. And so we still, in Libra, need to balance that energy out between our own personal desires and other people's interest in the impact it's going to have on them. So yes, Chiron is very close to this moon, and the sun and the moon are going to trigger Chiron. And Chiron is that deep wound. It is something that has occurred in the past, perhaps sometimes repetitively, that causes a deep cut or a deep wound, especially in this instance because Aries is present. So this is a slashing kind of energy. So Chiron being so close, it can produce a new wound to emerge, that somebody says something to you or takes aggressive action towards you. This isn't hidden like Pisces. This is out in the open. It's pretty direct, and you're pretty aware of the intention of the other person. So it can happen both ways. It can happen the breaking open of an old wound or the new wound emerging. So Chiron always has sought answers, like it is trying to figure something out. So it is with Mercury here, it is the mentorship, mediator. It wants to know what the problem is. Let's uncover it. So counseling, therapies, all of those things come into play to bring this out of the open, which is really apparent for the Indigenous people of Canada. They want to bring everything up to the surface, and let's deal with this. Let's not cover up the wound. Let's heal the wound. So Chiron is a passageway forward to kind of say, let's finish this and move on, and reconcile our differences. Let's figure it out. And so that passageway or the bridge can actually lead you to freedom instead of kind of that depressive energy. And so there's a lot of healing that goes on with Chiron, but it's a lot of shadow work because many of the wounds are so deeply buried from the childhood, from the past, that sometimes we don't even pay attention to them. We are so kind of absorbed in other things. But now it's time to look at those things and do some shadow work. Do some of that deep, penetrating energy work. And don't expect other people to heal it for you. You have to heal it yourself. You have to reconcile with yourself before other people can reconcile with you. And that's that axis of Libra and Aries. You have to understand your own wounds before you can tell other people or explain to other people how the wound occurred. And so this is a very much shadow work, very much shamanic energy that really looks, I need to look at myself. If all else fails, you have to do self-reflection. And you have to really dig deep into yourself instead of just reacting to what other people are doing and what other people are saying. What is the wound and how can you fix it yourself? Because this is Aries. And so don't omit it. Don't blame necessarily other people for it, because even though there was maybe an act of harshness that came towards you, it's you that is going to have to deal with that wound, not whoever inflicted it. That's the omission that these people perhaps have carried on. So this deep pressure here, this bridge of Chiron to bridge those 2 points is vitally important to move from the past into the future, which is Mars, where Mars is sitting. Mars is sitting in the future. Aries is saying, what am I doing? I need to do some self-reflection. I need to heal. I need to have a new conversation. I need to have a new perception. So that is the pathway of this moon energy and the beginning, the fresh beginning, when all of that lifts off of you and you're moving on into the future, whatever that future looks like. So the past is really relevant heading into this new moon, and we're really sensitive here because we have a Jupiter-Neptune conjunction about to happen on April 12th. So we have this real sensitivity, this real empathy, psychic energy that is emerging. So get on the wave, like get on that energy of compassion, belief, faith. I have the faith to move on. I have the ability to move on. So you have to watch, because many of us are going to feel like we're backed into a corner. And in order to get out of the corner, we got to fight our way out. And that most likely is going to have some repercussions, especially if we're feeling really claustrophobic. And then you're going to see instances around the world where people are pushing their agenda with Saturn, and the Ukraine is a really good example. Is the Ukraine being pushed into a corner, or is Russia being pushed into a corner? And there has to be some resolution here through Chiron peace talks, because Jupiter and Neptune are so close, and healing that has to take place to figure out what those wounds are. And so there's no doubt we're going to stand up for ourselves. We're really going to look at ourselves directly and say, what do I need to do? What do I need to do, not somebody else? So this is a very personal journey and a very personal moon that's going to set off the rest of 2022, heading into 2023. And so this is the time to maybe stand your ground in many ways, but it's also a time to do a great deal of healing, and medicine, to work with medicine. So when I talk about medicine, medicine isn't necessarily going to the pharmaceutical company, getting your fourth booster shot with your vaccine. This is working. Chiron was a great healer because he worked with herbs and herbology. He was the herbologist, the naturalist. And this connects with the moon we just had in Virgo, the full moon in Virgo, because she is also the naturalist, the natural healer of our world, and works extensively with those ancient practices. So this energy now that is emerging is more shamanic energy because it's got the shadow work attached to it. So some of the herbs, and I want to bring up some of the herbs that you could work with this new moon, if you are into any type of Wiccan or witchcraft or the craft, or just a natural healer. So Angelica is one of them, basil, dandelion. So even if you're not into making a talisman or a mojo bag, or maybe making a little spell for yourself, this is a good energy to throw some of those herbs into whatever you're cooking. So dandelion, or start drinking dandelion tea at this time. Other herbs are fennel, which also is a purifying, healing herb as well. Honeysuckle, if you're dealing with heart-related issues. Broom, blessed thistle, and nettle, which many people are drinking now. So those are just a few of them, and I just want to pull out, not the rare ones, but some of the ones that you can have access to relatively quickly. And so if you are looking to do spells or spell craft, or maybe you're just looking to manifest, and because that's what spells are. Spells are just manifestation with a kick. You do something to promote or generate whatever it is that you're manifesting. In this instance, you want to purify. There's a lot of purification that's going on because Chiron is present, and there's a lot of words being spoken. So that is kind of a perfect combination for that manifestation or spells to do with action-orientated motivation spells, goal setting, and those things that you want specifically. Like, I want a new job. I want to do this for the next year. So this is a good time to set really strong intentions, even though I'm not an intention kind of a girl. This is a good time to do that. Delve into wisdom, the wisdom of it. So everybody keeps saying we're being downloaded with this information. But the processing of the information sometimes gets tangled up. Like, we don't know what to do with the information. What do you do when you become aware of something? In this case, we're going to react to it. But sometimes we simply, like, what does that mean? I don't know. What am I supposed to become aware of? So you're most likely going to be downloaded or get new information, but you have to do some research. You have to find out, how can I work with this? What can I do with this new information that I'm receiving? And then find the answers. This is a good moon for that as well. And the healing, the herbalist, naturalist. So we're kind of returning in many ways to some of those old ways. And the wounds that occurred with some of those old natural ways, the midwives, the healing woman in the village that was referred to as a witch or was evil, And yet she was trying to save people. She was trying to heal people. And yet she was murdered. So we're delving into a lot of things from the past so we can move into the future. And that's what this moon is about. Healing, find the information, use those old ways, do some research. We have so many resources now to find that information. Look into doing a spell for motivation if you're, because we have some laziness in this new moon. So you want to make sure that you do some motivational, increase your energy, because lots of us haven't had energy and we've been really on edge. So this will be wonderful for that, alternative medicines. And of course, now the weather is warming up. So get out and do some earthing, play outdoors and connect with nature as we transverse over the bridge with Chiron. So I hope you join me next time, and I love having you all along. And follow me on Facebook at Spiritual Journey. My picture is the picture of the tree and the moon. So I'll see you next time, and hopefully I have time, because we've all been busy, to do some other work with you. And so I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.